Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation, along with
CJ Lou from the Fired Up with CJ show.
Woohoo!
Woo!
If you've ever felt daunted, challenged, or depressed by the news, noise, or events around you, then do we have, oh boy, possibility making show for you. Today we'll talk about seeing the shiny side of things, seeing possibilities, opportunities, and how nearly every challenge can be an opportunity in disguise if we look hard enough.
I woke up this morning and I was thinking, oh, I just still feel funky. And I thought, what is going on? And so I was trying to figure out what part of me knows the answer of what's going on. And so I was using muscle tests, and my soul had a sense of what was going on. And I tuned in, and it said, yeah, you're upset about your spiritual path, and that and it was something about not surrendering. I mean, the ultimate message was not surrendering and allowing whatever is to be, and not try to control it or have it look in a particular way. And that really is in some ways the message of this whole week, I think, for everyone, right? I mean, I've had in Seattle, and I don't know what it's like on the East Coast, but in Seattle, which is primarily Democratic, people, if you walk around here, people after on Wednesday, people were in a state of shock. I've never seen such dismay. Like literally, I had a girlfriend who was crying all Wednesday, and she wasn't the only one. Kids crying, afraid that they're going to be deported. People just crying because they didn't know what it meant to have the bully in the schoolyard be the president. I mean, just people are in a state of shock and dismay, and it's everywhere. There's not. I walked in. We walked into Pete's Coffee, and that's our favorite place to go around Green Lake. And the guy said, "I've never been in the coffee shop where literally everyone is depressed. Like the customers, the people who work here, the dogs, the children, like
The dogs were depressed.
it's just like everything. It's just the weirdest thing." And it's been so interesting looking at Facebook, the responses, because most of my friends, I have some my East Coast friends of not friends, but just, people from high school that are writing like, why won't these Hillary people just stop being whiners and shut up? And, they're just being whiny babies. Grow up. I've ever heard that. That was like one small fraction. And then all this catharsis of people going through the five. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talks about the 5 stages of grief. So,
Grief?
yeah. So I saw a lot of blame. It's blankety. It's the millennials because they didn't turn out. It's the Gen X's because they were still burned by Bernie. There's all these like finger pointing. There's the blame and then associated with that shame, and then anger. Like, oh, and then hysterical crying. Because there's just a sense of great loss, and so it's anger, denial, blame, bargaining, like, well, maybe next year, like we have another chance 2 years from now. So maybe, this will actually, maybe things will turn around. So, all this kind of, and then storytelling up, like an extreme storytelling. Well, this means I'm not safe. This means he's going to deport, it's just been people are literally hysterical here. And it's funny because I would get to a place of calm, and then I'd go out into the world and I would get in a state of frenetic, like dismay, and then I'd get in a state of calm. It was literally been like that.
It sounds like a washing machine.
Yeah, it is. It's
Different cycles.
Yeah,
different
it
wash
really,
cycles.
and it's really fascinating. I mean, I've never been. I imagine it's like when a hurricane hits. Do you know what I mean? Where a hurricane hits and people are just like walking in the streets, devastated, and everyone's gone through the same experience, so everyone can kind of relate to what's happening, and just seeing the range of emotional responses, and it's really been a fascinating phenomena, and one that's just so filled with the unknown that I think it's really a mass hysteria caused from being in a state of unknown. and people just fearing the unknown and creating all these the most worst case scenarios that you can imagine, which starts off how you started off the show, right? Like, what happened? So what are your thoughts about how is it on the East Coast? Is it the same reaction, or is it much less dramatic?
In the Northeast, and I admit I don't get out that much. I think it's somewhat of the same thing. Going into Trader Joe's and having the woman who cashier, and she's bagging, and I'm like, so what are you going to do for fun later today? And this is the day after the election, and she goes, honestly, I'm going to go drink.
That's been a common refrain for a lot of people.
Drink a lot. Yeah. So. I felt it. I felt it before. I didn't follow. I went to sleep. I got up. I felt the feelings. I'm like, oh, so that's what happened. And so I just sensed it. So there was definitely a shift in the energy. I'm such a bright and positive person that it's hard to squash me down for long. And I keep things pretty apolitical here. But
right.
As I see things, there's definitely some flipping on its head. There's definitely some uncomfort. There could definitely be things not going the way many people or some people desire. But I see us, as you were talking about it last week, as a spherically moving upwards and upwards and upwards. And oftentimes it's the most uncomfortable periods, the periods of the most pain, that bring us the greatest growth opportunities. And that's not just lip service. I've broken too many bones in my body to see it as any other way. So this is our course. It may not be an enjoyable one now, or it may be, but it's our course. But I see huge positives and possibilities that can come out of this. It doesn't mean, particularly if you're on the one side, it doesn't mean it's going to be fun for a while. It may be really uncomfortable. But out of that can come appreciation, can come gratitude, and certainly, like it or not, we get comfortable in our discomfort. And this is going to change stuff. Some stuff, a lot of stuff, big stuff, little stuff, but I think change is good. I think change could be very good.
Yeah, I agree, actually. That's a good perspective. I think change is good, and I actually think that hardship brings about huge transformation. So I think that those are two perspectives that I haven't heard. I mean, we're mostly still in the grief period here in Seattle that I don't think, like, those kinds of thoughts are more irritating for people. Like, if I even posted that on Facebook, no, I'm not. It's not irritating to me. It's actually interesting to me. But it's actually hard to hear that when you're still grieving. If someone's like, yes, my dog just died, and you're like, hey, there's a lot of, they'd be like, screw you. Like, just do not tell me that right now. I think
if a parent has lost a child, there's no way in the world I would say everything happens for a reaon.
Right. Hardship is good. This is good. You're going to transform in some positive way. It's kind of like, but I do think that those things are true. And I think that, I think that to me, all it did was show to me that ignorance on my side, right, where I just didn't realize that people were suffering. Because, see, if you live on the coast, which both of us do, right, the economy is going great, right? The global economy is going great, and that's spurring, for me in Seattle, Amazon is going great. Starbucks expanding 5,000 stores in China. Microsoft is like employing people from all over the world and bringing them into, it's like we are part of the global economy and expansion and beneficiaries of those. But I don't think, if you're the beneficiary of those things and you see growth and possibility, you're kind of ignorant to what the people in the middle of the country are really feeling. And I think that was what became way, way more, like, it made me get curious and want to know more about what the hardship was for people who are in the middle part of the country who are not experiencing that at all. In fact, they're experiencing something quite the opposite of that, right? A loss of the American dream, a loss of all these different things. So I think for me that was, if there's a silver lining for me personally, that was the one that, like, wow, I just didn't know. Like, people have spoken, and if we stand united, then a part of us is not happy, right? It's like everything else may be going great, but like if your internal center is not doing well, then nothing is well, right? Like don't fool yourself in thinking we're all well, because if the center of the country is not doing well, it means that we're not all doing well. And so that to me was like, wow, that's pretty big insight. Didn't know. And, if people are going to throw around like ignorance as an idea, it's like, I think there's ignorance on maybe, I don't know. I can at least see ignorance on my side of the equation. But yeah, it's just been so fascinating to think through all these different things. And I think the operative word is think. If you go into the don't know mindset, we just don't know. There could be possibilities in which this election actually did some really good things that we don't know yet. We can't see because we're just looking at a small time horizon.
Well, it's a great point. And we're having this discussion right here, which would never have taken place. So
right.
in that shaking up of things, there's so much that's going to be learned out of it, where if things had continued in a certain path, and I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but we may not have woken up to some of that, at least not yet, and not till we're further down the road. So maybe this is a period of 4 years of healing, which could be pretty awesome.
Right. Or to slow down. Like I think that if I try to put myself in the perspective of the center of the country, right, and what they're feeling, it's there's been like a rapid bullet train. I don't have a seat on that train. And two, it's going way too fast. So you're asking me to change my mind on a whole set of different things and to adapt, but you're giving me no tools, resources to adapt. And you're expecting me to jump on this train when I don't even have a seat on this train half of the time. And if I do have a seat, I don't even know where it's going. And I don't even have the skill set to get on that train. So what the hell do you want me to do? And that's what I'm hearing. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it were me sitting in the center, in the in the middle, and experiencing the things that they're feeling. I don't know. I may have voted for, instead of Hillary, I would have voted for Trump too. Like, I think it's so easy to judge people and say, well, that's wrong. But you really don't know until you are sitting in that exact position.
True.
You just don't know. And the sad thing for me in looking through all the Facebook posts is the amount of judgment and guilting and shaming. And it's weird because if you point that out, then you're also judging and causing guilt and shame. So I'm in this like, well, it's not really helpful to point that out either, because then you're guilting and shaming the person who is guilting and shaming other people. Does that make sense?
And we just today being Sunday, we're airing a show by Paul Selig, another show with Paul Selig, and his guides were saying, I'm going to butcher it. So it was something to the effect of, if you are in the light pointing out the darkness, then you're not in the light. Mm-hmm. Something like that. That if you believe yourself to be spiritual, but somebody else isn't, but you say somebody else isn't, that judgment means you got to put the light back on yourself. You've got some work to do.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really true. And so I've just been trying. It's just been pulling me into trying to understand. To like, wow, I was really like, if we all suffer from our own delusions of our ego, I can see that's mine, right? Like I just really had no idea. And it's so much easier to blame someone than to look inside yourself and say, well, what part of how did you play into this, right?
I think, and it's again, we don't want to place blame on anybody, but I see our political system, I see all political systems at the end of the day as reflective of what's going on inside of ourselves.
Yep.
So to heal a political system really means diving into our own hearts. And I know that sounds like a dramatic oversimplification, but our leaders won't be the nutty leaders we often have if we get ourselves healed.
Yeah. Well, it's a shaman thing, as above, as below, as inside, as out, whatever. What is the thing, as within, as outside? What's the term? As within, as something.
As below, so above, as above, so below, or as below, right. So above.
Yeah, and then there's the as within, as.
So without,
yeah. So without. So I think that's really, like, to me, I thought, wow, like, what what if you say the external circumstances that are swirling around right now, where there's just like friction and hatred and blame and guilt and anger and name calling, like that kind of stuff that you see swirling around us is somehow all within our inside too, right? Because how else could this happen? Because it's so easy to, it's because you're the one who's, but really it's a reflection of our own inside, right?
It is.
Every single
the ego
person,
struggle.
Right? It's every single person. There's not one person to blame or a group of people to blame. It's a reflection of what's happening on our inside. And if we have that internal struggle, maybe for me, it's like my struggle between sometimes hating my ego and it's it's running amok in my life, to loving my ego, right? But it's that tension that's just in there, and now it's just like boom, like in her face, because it's been there all along, but the tension is so great that it had to be reflected outside. Does that make sense? That's to
It
me.
does.
Yeah, that's to me. It's like, wow, this is like, if you go to the shaman wisdom, it says that there's something wrong. There's something on the inside to be examined through whatever has happened. Like this external stuff is just a reflection of something on the inside that every single one of us holds.
And I would argue, I'm going to take it as the spinning upwards thing here. There's something that we needed to get exposed and something that we need to work on now. But I don't think it means that we're sick or less healthy than ever before. But it's time for it to be expunged. It's time for it to come out. And so it has been. You can see it. People are struggling a lot lately. People are testier lately, to say the least. And we're being pulled thinner. And specifically in the U.S., we don't take our vacation days anymore. We're afraid of getting laid off. It's much more, the 9 to 5 has turned into the 8 to 6. Plus keep your phone on all the time, plus weekends. Everybody's being stretched thin. And so, and we're struggling in the doingness rather than it just goes on and on. And so, yeah, it is starting to reflect outside.
Right.
And maybe it needs to for us to kind of snap our heads back and go, wait a second.
Right. Is this the life I want to be living? And if not, what is it that I want to be living? And how do I change on, I think that there's wonderful things that you can do, like, work with a nonprofit, work with various groups, give money to various groups. But then I think the whole idea with Gandhi, it's not like a trite thing. Like you have to first work on yourself. Like if you're looking at this election and feeling hatred and anger and blame, then it's and I'm not saying turn into yourself either and like start shaming and guilting yourself, but it's kind of healing. It's an opportunity to heal those parts and understand where they're coming from.
You just said something really, really, really important.
Yeah.
If you start to feel that hatred, that anger, whatever it is, those emotions that come up, what a perfect time to start to look at that. Start to breathe deep and start to become more aware of what's going on in you. Yeah. That's the first step. This is a turn inward, but not a kumbaya, life is good. Right. I'm talking when you're going, I'm mad.
Right.
Okay. Why am I mad? What can I do about this? I'm stuck with these emotions, and use this as an opportunity to heal. This is the mirror being put right in our faces.
Yeah.
And so what a perfect opportunity to go, okay, Michael says surrender, and I'm not saying anybody else to surrender. I'm going, I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. But what an opportunity. I'm stuck with this. I've got to deal with this. What an opportunity for me to figure out how to be okay with things just as they are, even if I'm going to use that as fuel to completely change things, which is awesome.
Right. Right.
At the same
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah. To accept what is, right? Like this is what is because I think you have to look, I don't know, you don't have to do anything, but I think of the United States as being like an election is the culture has voted and the culture is saying we need this kind of change. Why? I don't know, but it's clearly that something is unhappy, right? Like the country in itself is unhappy, and no matter who won, someone was going to be incredibly unhappy, right? Because half of the population feels unheard, regardless of who had won, because the election was that close. That one half would feel unhappy and one half would feel happy, and I think you almost have to think about we're an organism divided, right? And so until you can actually figure out where we are united, it's hard. Like, it's easy to say, let's be united. But until you actually can understand what each half is saying, why is this one half unhappy? Why is this one half unhappy? And how they can actually bring it together. It's easy to say we should be united, but the actual action, if there's any small action that people can do, it's like, okay, go talk to someone who voted on the opposite side and really try to understand. Don't judge them. Don't blame them. Don't be mad at them. Just try to truly understand how they're feeling. Like, that would be one positive outcome, I think, if we could do that as a country. And I hope that happens.
I like that because I really, truly believe they're you in another person's shoes.
Yeah.
And so given their circumstances, given every life circumstance that they've gone through, you may well have done the exact same thing that they did.
Yeah. There was a really interesting video that I saw, and it helped me understand what's happening in the middle parts of the U.S. And it was, the guy said, well, let's pretend that you're, what did he say? He said, you're in the Midwest and you are, and you're Gary from Gary, Indiana. And you used to have a job where you got paid $30 an hour. And all of a sudden, that company that you work for started shipping all that stuff down south. And all of a sudden, you're without a job. And then you start finding another job at like a local place that does call center stuff. And you go and you start doing your job where you're not getting paid $30 an hour, but you're getting paid $15 an hour, essentially half of what you used to make. And then you work there for a couple years, you build up skills, you retread, and then that job that was doing call center work is outsourced to India. And so now you don't have a job anymore. And there's not a lot of stuff going on in your community. So you work at the largest employer, which is Walmart. And, you work at Walmart for minimum wage, so you have another cut in your pay, and you are working your tail off because you have to work 3 times harder to be in the same financial position that you were in maybe 5 years ago. And so the skills that you have are now not being used. And you actually retried your career 2 times, right? And now you're kind of like, now I'm at Walmart. Not that there's, I'm sure Walmart's a perfectly fine place, but you're in a place where you're a completely different place than you were maybe like 5-7 years ago. And it feels like crap. And for me, I listened to, I'm like, wow, that's really what's happening. And it's really different than being here on the West Coast where you're like, oh, I'm wondering whether I should get, the newest electronic car, ooh, that's so cool. You're like, oh, I'm in a virtual world with my virtual reality goggles. You're like in a and you're like, so true. And you're trying to figure out when you're going to book your tickets to whatever, and Amazon is growing, and oh, look, they have a new shed that I can put all my new Amazon things in so that, it's like in a little plane that flies around. I mean, it's just those are 2 different realities. These are so remarkably different realities. And I just think that so it's almost like we have a split personality within our one personality, right? You have this.
Doesn't that sound like the 2 people, the one, the pitchfork and the angel, both on one on each shoulder? That's what's going on inside of us.
Yeah. And so I think that's. So if we're going to stand united, we have to understand both sides, because otherwise, how are we going to unite? But if we spend most of our time right now arguing and complaining and blaming, which I think a lot of it's natural, so I'm not trying to poo-poo that. That's the natural emotional cycle that we have to go through. But I think if the most positive outcome, I think, could be coming together. So that's one of the greatest hope. Yes. Any other thoughts on your side?
About that, or in general?
In general.
Well, in general, we've come up with a mad devious plan to take over the world this fall.
Yeah?
Well, maybe not quite that much. But
Is that your genius plan?
Yes, yes, it is. It is our genius plan, which is to give away or to help people give Inspire Nation as a gift this fall.
Okay.
So what we did is and it was actually no small effort because we have, when we include all of our meditations, it's over 500 shows.
Wow.
And you can only get 300 on iTunes.
Right.
And so we downloaded and compiled all of our shows. We put them on a jump drive along with 99 standalone meditations. So it's over 400 shows, about 150 meditations, 99 of them standalone. It might even be closer to 200 meditations.
Wow.
And we're putting them all on a jump drive, and we've been working on it this week, and kind of mad scientist, and Jessica's putting together the pages on our website for this, and we're doing a Black Friday sale.
Oh, very cool.
We're going to be selling the jump drive. Who knows what it's going to go to in the future, but right now it's either $47 or $49, or it's over 500 hours of Inspire Nation, because it's hard to get all the episodes, and people, when they listen, you get excited and you're like, law of attraction. I want to hear more law of attraction. Right. Actually, if you want law of attraction, go to our website. By the time you're hearing this, we've got a free giveaway for you. You just enter your email address and you're going to get the top 10 law of attraction shows emailed to you right away.
Oh, cool.
So we're putting this all together so people can get the shows they want when they want on their devices. Don't have to worry about downloads or data limits or anything like that. And we're doing it super affordable so that you can get it. I mean, $47, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
It's really, really cheap. And it's every show we've done.
Wow,
so
very cool.
You love Bob Proctor, you get Bob Proctor. Yeah. You love Dean Karnazes and running, you get Dean Karnazes, whoever it is.
Right. Fantastic. Well, that's really exciting. Very cool. So how do I get this on? I go to your website and I can buy this?
Go to the website. You're going to be able to purchase it there. And so that's the easiest way, is just through the website, and we'll have a link to purchase it there. If you're on our newsletter list, we're going to let you know about it as well. If you want the downloads of our top 10 law of attraction shows, just put your email address right on the front page of the website. You'll get it there as well. So it's going to be all over the place to make it really easy for you to get this for the holidays, for Black Friday, to give as gifts, or to have and put in your device. So it was even hard for us to pull all of our own shows down. It's no simple task. You have to be like a pro podcaster to thread your way through iTunes or whatever it is to find just the show you're looking for. It's not that easy. And so all of this will be very keyword searchable. So if you say, I want shows on finding a better job, you type in job or career, it'll give you the different career shows.
Right.
If I want to overcome being sick or illness, you put that in, or put in health, and it'll show you all the shows that way.
Right.
So
it's like an encyclopedia. Encyclopedia of self-help. Like anything you want is in that jump drive.
I don't know of. I'm trying to say this without being biased. I have not heard of. There's probably something. I haven't heard of a better collection or a larger collection. Over 400 to 500 hours.
Is that ever
of
since
content.
your inception, or since just your wow? So when did you hit your 500 show?
It's a good question, because initially we were doing 2 shows a day, because we were doing a regular show and a meditation show.
Right.
And so we have only tracked specifically, without counting, we have only tracked, we're on show, I think, 431. When this comes out, it'll probably be 434. Plus, there were 99 meditation shows. So we're at what, 523 or so right now?
Yeah.
So if we back up a little over 3 weeks ago, and we're mid-November, so some point before Halloween, we hit our 500th show.
Wow.
It's a lot of work. Wow.
Yeah, that is a lot of work. Wow. Okay, we've got to do a little drum roll for that.
Love. A true labor of love.
And a gift of love. I love it. Okay. So any other final thoughts?
Come on over to InspireNationShow.com. Get the Inspire Nation collection. There's a shameless plug, because I think everybody can benefit from it.
Yes, that's the best gift of love that you can give someone.
And then on the note of what's going on and a healing time, I'm going to go to my old standby, which I cannot express strongly enough. When you're not feeling good, as long as you're still mobile, get yourself out to nature. Things start to become clearer. The anxiety levels drop way, way down. And if nothing else, you're going to be able to catch your breath in the madness of it all.
I completely agree with that because I've been doing lots of walks in nature. My last comment is that the only thing that can, I guess I'm not sure if this is the right word, but the only thing that can overcome fear is love. And so I just challenge all of us to, as hard as it may be, for half of the population out there, to see how you can be in a place of love. And if you can't get there right now, just be in a place of non-judging or trying to understand or quiet.
I've got one more word that would go right along with that.
Understanding.
Gratitude.
What?
Gratitude.
Gratitude.
Go to a place of gratitude. Be in a place of gratitude for what you do have.
Yeah.
Even if the place of gratitude for what you do have is that, how do I put this? I have the opportunity to be unhappy with the situation. Even being unhappy, even having the opportunity to be unhappy is still something to be grateful for.
Right. Yeah. Well, we have so many things to be grateful for as a country. I mean, at some level, it's ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? I know it's a temporary blip and things may change dramatically, but I think that because everyone's disposition for change is somewhat small right now, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen.
We had on Larry Brilliant, I mentioned him last week, the gentleman who really helped wipe smallpox off the face of the planet. That was a disease that killed at least 1 out of every 3 kids. And it basically boiled their skin alive and then boiled them from the inside out.
Ugh.
And we don't have that anymore. And we don't have that to deal with. And our kids generally tend to make it. And we tend to make it to an older age. So compared to, oh God, I'm almost going to sound like there are people starving in Africa, so eat your food. And that's not what I mean. But there is, like you say, there is a lot to be grateful for, even in our discomfort right now. And gratitude pushes out fear, and it pushes out hatred, and it gets us back to a place of possibilities. And that's probably where we need to be right now, in that place where things are possible. There is some light that can come to this.
Amen to that.
Woo! All right, I think we should call it good while the going is.
I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, CJ, for being on the show. For everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler and
CJ Liu
saying, be well, have fun, breathe deep, get to nature, go to love. If you can't go to love, go to non-judgment. If you can't get there, get to gratitude. And shine bright.
Woo!
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.